So today I'm fighting with a glider rifle company from page 22 of Nuts. So they're rated as confident veteran in this army listing from this book. So I start off with the standard 1IC and 2IC, and then I've got the two glider rifle companies. So one is at full strength, but I've swapped out for two bazookas and the extra machine gun. And the second is at just two squads, again swapped out with bazookas though. And this army also comes with, I like to use my airborne engineer platoon. So these guys have got a supply cart, so I can either lay barbed wire or minefields depending on who I'm up against. And also one of the rules with this squad is, or this platoon is, that depending on who I'm fighting against, I can swap out one of the machine gun teams for a rifle team. So I'll find out just before the battle starts if I want to do that move. I've then got the first of two 105 M3 105 gun platoons. I've got two of these on the table, but both separated, so I can either fire as two separate platoons or combine three all guns repeat on one big target moving forward. In case I want to move forward, I've got some recon that may come out at the beginning of the game, so I've got some stands for the recon. And then they're further supported by an anti-tank platoon with bazookas and jeeps, a heavy machine gun platoon again with bazookas, and then a small squad of mortars. I'm also using in this game a weapons platoon, and the idea for the weapons platoon is if we do roll, for example, fighting withdrawal, if I combat attach some of the squad and leave three bases, it's the first one I'm going to take off the table because it'll have less impact on removing forces from my game. That gives me 10 stands, or 10 platoons, sorry, and then it's supported by an AOP and a Thunderbolt with a high priority. So having the 10 means I can start with 5, I've got half on, half off. I also ignore the first lost platoon when I'm looking for points values at the end as well. So that's my platoon from page 22 of Nuts.
Right, well, I'm using a German list from Nuts as well, page 60. This is fairly trained SS Panzer Grenadiers. It's a lot smaller a force. We've got two platoons of infantry that are all MG Panzerfaust bases, so they can pack quite a punch, but they're quite vulnerable because they're only trained. Got a platoon of 3 Stugs, 2 Sturm Tigers and 3 Panzerforce 70Vs, and I've got a Pak 40 platoon, Nebelwerfer platoon and a Scout platoon. Now I changed this from the last time I used it. I used to use heavy artillery in it, but to be honest, if you're defending, they very rarely come on the table until it's too late. If you're attacking, you need smoke if you're trained. So that's why I've chosen the Nebs in this game, because the infantry are just too vulnerable, especially moving over open terrain. So it looks like the Germans will be attacking. Is there a mechanised list? And these guys will be dug in, and we'll have to now roll for the mission. We'll set up the table, roll for the mission, and we'll talk you through the terrain. Well, as we've both got lists from Nuts, just by pure coincidence, we've decided we're going to play a game based around Bastogne. My list didn't actually fight at Bastogne, but it's a nice kind of theme for the lists. So we've got a town in the middle, and we decided to set the table up on the basis of the town being in that portion, so we could do Cauldron, and we'll talk over that mission in a moment. But just to go through the table, you can see we've got lots of buildings in the middle, so that'll have a big part to play in the game, especially as I've got Sturm Tigers. They're surrounded by some fields and some walls, so there'll be boggin checks there. We have hills surrounding the town, and we've got some woods as well, so the woods will be area terrain, blocking line of sight more than 6 inches away for things that are outside of it. In the middle of the town as well, it's very heavily bombed, so lots and lots of shell craters, which will mean moving up and down that road is only going to be possible by infantry, man-packed gun teams or tracked or half-tracked vehicles, and any vehicles that can move on it will need to do a skill check or be bogged down, so it can be quite difficult going, quite literally. So that's the table. Lots going on, lots of cover, restricted lines of sight, so could be quite an open battle actually once we go through the mission, which we'll do just now.
So we've gone for Cauldron, which is 285 from the rule book, and this is a mobile battle. So as a defender defending Bastogne, I've marked out in the outer area in my deployment zone. So as a defender I get immediate ambush, prepared positions, which will mean I can bring on my either barbed wire or minefield, depends on which one I want to deploy, and then delayed reserves. My delayed reserves will start coming on from turn 3 onwards from the opposite table edge. As the attacker then gets random deployment. So random deployment, we've got 1, 2, 3 or 4. 5 or 6 means you can come in anywhere from, the attacker can choose any one of the 3 table edges to come on from. And then he's also then got the reserves, which will come on from the 2 short table edges as well coming on. In the middle, we've now got the deployment zone for 2 objectives to deploy by the attacker inside the middle of the town itself. So we'll come back once we've put the deployment markers, objectives markers down, and then get ready to deploy our lists. Okay, so in this game then, the attacker puts down 2 objectives. So one was put in the forward field and one was put towards the back of the town here. So because I had 10 platoons, I've got 5 on, 5 off. Of the 5 on, I'm keeping 1 back in immediate ambush, and that's going to be my anti-tank team. So I've got 4 platoons on the table. So I started by deploying my 2 platoons of 105s. Now obviously because I'm in the town, there is a bit of a restriction because I've got to be back from the buildings to fire over those. So there was a slight issue trying to get everything deployed here, but I've deployed the 2 gun platoons, my engineer platoon up front there. The guys will take on all comers around that first objective, and the second objective is then protected by the heavy machine gun platoon. What I have done is I've split out my weapons platoon and combat attached a mortar onto the heavy machine guns and 1 onto the engineer platoon. So I've got 4 on the table, 1 in immediate ambush, and I've also then deployed a line of barbed wire to my side here just to protect this flank from any attack. But then obviously, as you can see, the deployment's gone against me slightly here.
Well, the German deployment is random, and what we got is the Panzer 470 Vs came out in this corner, so I had to stick them behind the wood to keep them out of 16 inches, because they cannot be within 16 inches if they're in line of sight. The Sturm Tigers were over in this corner. Now I put them out of line of sight of everybody because if I put them in the field to get shooting at first turn against his guns, to be honest, I'm in a bad position for his reserves coming on behind me and doing all kind of nastiness to me. So they're starting over there. And then my infantry, I got 5s and 6s for them, so I've put them over in this wood with the idea of making a rush on this flank. The other flank, it's got an objective, but it's defended by barbed wire and heavy machine guns, so I'll probably get shot to bits before I got there. I've not deployed my Nebelwerfers on the table at the start because a random deployment could have put them in a position where they could be overwhelmed by the reserves if they're anywhere along the back edge. So they'll be the first platoon I'll look to bring on from reserve. And I've also got Stug's anti-tank guns, won't be much use in this game, and some armoured cars that could be useful if there's some gone to ground still left, though I reckon this is going to be a fairly quick shoot 'em up kind of game. So we'll be back at the end of the Germans' first turn. Okay, German turn 1. Just before we start, Brian put down his immediate ambush of his anti-tank platoon in this field here to stop this rushing over and killing the guns. So the Germans moved out with the Panzer 470 Vs. The infantry just stayed dug in as they were. It wasn't safe there to come out. I got reserves. I put the Nebs over in that corner because they're out of line of sight of anything except the artillery, and put them anywhere on these further edges and they're likely to get overwhelmed by reserves coming on from the back, and there was no space behind this wood to deploy. So the Sturm Tigers, they moved up towards those guns. They had to move this turn so they could only fire the machine guns. And they didn't get any damage. I don't know if they got any hits, needing 6s because of concealment. And the Panzer 470 Vs got 1 hit, which was saved. No stormtroopering from the Germans, so that's the quick end of German turn 1 over to the GIs.
Right. At the end of American turn 1, seeing the threat of the tanks coming in on my flank here, I've taken a bombardment with my 105s, managed to destroy one and just failed to bail a second, so one of the tanks destroyed across on this side. My second artillery bombardment went against the Storm Tigers, again, but he made his save, so no damage across here. But what really helped me in this turn was the plane. I managed to get one plane on, but during that I managed to take out 2 stands of the Nebs. I think that makes us pretty ineffective unit here now. Although in saying that, because of the deployment zone and everything so close, I don't think it's going to be much more my plane can go after, because I'm going to be within 16 of friendly units, so that might have been his one chance at glory, and he's taken it at the first turn. So first blood to Americans, turn 1.
Right, German turn 2. They got reserves on again, so brought the Stugs on. It was really difficult trying to decide where to put them. I thought over in the corner would be good, but I was worried too much about the planes. That's the one corner the planes can really do something at. So I brought them on over here, and they actually managed to kill a gun when they came on at long range, which was quite good. I suppose the main thing that happened over here is 4 shots from these guys. I just kept them still, and I thought they're either going to kill these guns or get killed, and they managed to destroy 2 guns, which was quite good going. And then Stormtrooper to split them up a little bit, and then the Storm Tigers managed to kill another gun. The Nebs, the Neb, only one of them, unpinned and dug in. So at least there's a bit of smoke available for me, because I reckon I'm going to need it trying to get over here. There's just so many shots can come in against my trained guys, and it's a long way towards either of the 2 objectives. So the Germans at least managed to whittle down the American artillery, but the core units are still in place, and one more turn before the American reserves start coming in behind my guys.
Okay, so the end of American turn 2, I tried to already ranged in to have another artillery shot at his tanks, and because of the template I was just catching one of the infantry stands as well. So the tank never hit, but managed to hit the infantry, which did save, but it is now, the unit's now pinned across on this side. The other gun managed to unpin, and again already ranged in, so took another artillery shot at the Storm Tiger, but the Storm Tiger made its save, just. And then the plane just came on and managed to bail out the single Stug in the middle there. So not really much happening in that turn, just pinned and one bailed out tank at the moment.
So German turn 3, the bailed out Stug got back in, and the platoon moved up towards the guns. Didn't manage to get any hits, but the Storm Tigers managed to get the last gun. The lone Nebelwerfer, I've just realised it can't actually smoke, with just being one gun. It fired a barrage, ranged in on the surviving artillery piece over here, but did no damage. The Panzer 470Vs fired again and got a much more realistic outcome this turn. They did nothing to the guns. The infantry, being fearless with a reroll for the company commander, obviously failed to unpin. Not much happened in the way of stormtroopering, but one thing I forgot to mention is the armoured cars came on in reserve, and they're now just sort of looking at any threats that's going to start coming from the back of the table. So that turn, basically, American gun died that turn. We'll see what happens when the Americans start rolling for reserves.
So at the end of American turn 3, I rolled for reserves and managed to get one set of reserves on, so I brought in my largest glider rifle company in the corner there to try and start coming down to attack his infantry platoons at the side of the table. I also moved the staff team and the command team from the gun platoon back into some crater cover for 2 reasons. One, to give them a bit of protection from the incoming tanks, but what also allowed me to then do was bring in my plane again, because I was outside 16 of my own stands. So I brought the plane in, got 2 planes, and managed to hit but failed to do any damage on the Sturmtiger. These things are really quite survivable at the moment. Across the other side of the table, I decided to re-roll to range in. The important reason for this was because if you hit re-roll on the first roll you get time on target, and I managed to get that, and time on target actually allowed me, because I've only got one gun, to re-roll the hit, and I managed to hit re-roll and got a second hit, taking out a second tank here. The third tank has survived, it's rolled its motivation and stayed on the table, but 2 tanks down at the moment. So it's always a good idea to re-roll your ranged in rather than just relying on the ranged in marker, because that time on target really does help. I then opened fire with the guns in the field as well, just to try and take the last remaining tank out, but never done any damage. But I thought I'm not going to sit back now, let's open up with the anti-tank guns. So that's the end of American turn 3.
So German turn 4 brought in the last of the reserves, which is quite useless Pak 40s, so I've just stuck them out of the way over there in case somebody comes in behind me. To put them over here, we just put them in line of sight of the heavy machine guns, so they probably get smashed to bits. These guys are kept moving up. The armoured car's watching the back. One of the Stug's bogs going over a hedge. Over here, my surviving Panzer 470 has just decided to get out of there because it's not going to do anything. Taking apart and shot at the artillery piece but missed. The Nebelwerfer fired again, ranged in but missed again. These guys are unpinned, but they're just sitting there because to move out would be to get shot to bits. These guys are all dug in, so I need 6s to kill them. That's not going to happen. Nothing much happened in the way of Stormtrooper in either, so over to American turn 4 for some more reserves, I think.
Okay, so the end of American turn 4, so I didn't get any reserves this turn. So in movement, I continued to move my glider rifle company forward. I'm now actually going to start moving them on towards this objective, because this is really a bit weak down here, so I started to break off half the platoon of the engineers to move across here to support the heavy machine gun. So the idea is to support that objective with the glider rifle company. The anti-tank gun didn't fire, so they've now gone to the ground. They're just waiting for these guys to come out of the woods. I've rotated my single 105 across to try and get some artillery shots in next turn across here. In this side of the battlefield, I decided to take one shot with the bazooka. I managed to bail out a Stug, and because I'd also moved out again my command and staff team, I managed to bring the plane in again, focused in on some armoured cars, and managed to take out, killed one, bailed one, which then failed its motivation test, so the first platoons left the table in terms of the Germans. So there's now 2 bailed out Stugs in front of me, but these things are still worrying me at the moment. So end of American turn 4.
So German turn 5, surviving Panzer 470 is just trying to keep us still out of line of sight of guns, to be honest. Over here we're still trying to push around that objective. I'm having to split myself up because that one surviving artillery piece over there could technically come down and kill 3 Stugs. They were all close together, so I've had to keep pushing them up, try to kill bazookas and so on. I've got to get in and about that. I expect some shots coming back at me this turn, maybe assaults, you never know. Second in command came up the street, decided he was going to try and kill the remaining guys for the gun team. He got his assault in and then fluffed it, so he got clobbered back and killed. So not much at all from the Germans. Don't think they killed anything that turn. So over to American turn 5.
Okay, so this is the end of American turn 5. So I've got another reserve came on. So this was smaller glider rifle company came on. So they started to move up towards the town. And the second glider rifle company, the first one that came on a couple of turns ago, continued to move towards this objective, which is again, it's just freed up some of the engineers to start moving across the table, so they keep moving across here as well. The one single gun had a shot at his tanks, a bit of a silly rule, but managed to actually bail one of the Stugs. I also had a shot with the bazookas on the platoon as well, but I failed to do any damage. So I got one bailed out Stug in the middle here. my plane, I just rolled a 1 in the plane, so again I had to re-roll and actually managed to do some hits on his single neb and failed to do any damage here, so the neb still fights on another day. So at the moment, I'm trying to move across to combat this threat here and bring in my infantry in from the back, but still on the balance at the moment.
So, German turn 6. This wee guy's messing about around the back, trying to shoot up some infantry and missing. The Nebelwerfer finally managed to actually hit that gun, but it just saved. Over here, it's probably going to be the start of the end for the Germans, because 3 tanks bogged in the stormtrooper phase after some really effective shooting. So if the Americans play their cards right, they can effectively wipe out one side of the Germans' advance next turn. So let's see what they can do.
So this is the main end of American turn 6. So I brought on 1 reserves at the back. It's the mortars. The idea is that hopefully next turn, if there is a next turn, I can start laying down some mortar fire on the guns across here. Kept bringing forward my 2 rifle platoons. I've actually taken the gamble and actually move both at the double. So Truscott Trot to move them forward. And this allowed me to take the rest of the engineers off of this objective to start coming through the town to protect this side of the table. The single gun had an artillery bombardment at the 2 tanks here, but failed to do any damage and made all the saves. I also took a bazooka shot at the tank as well, but again made it save. And then I had my plane come in and took 2 shots at the single neb, but the single neb was saved as well, so nothing killed through the shooting. I then tried to roll to tank terror to assault with the bazooka into the Stug, but failed the tank terror test. So I'm hoping that if the Stugs don't get back in this turn, my engineers can keep moving up and launch an assault next turn as well.
Stugs have to get back in or they'll die. But there's one thing, Brian, I couldn't tell him, but I forgot about these 2 remaining bases. The command base could have moved up, assaulted with no counter fire or tank terror and captured all those tanks there. So I was a bit unlucky that turn. I don't know if I'll be lucky next turn.
One for me to learn.
German turn 7. This wee guy's too slow, believe it or not, to catch up with those infantry. So he's just coming back round, see what you can see. So it's really all happening over here. Only 1 Stug managed to unbog. So this turn the surviving Stug and Sturm Tiger did some machine gun shots against the bazooka, and the command team that came out did nothing. But I launched an assault, he missed counterfire, I killed the command team, he broke off, and then I've consolidated and stormtroopered over here, because if I don't, so much stuff's bogged down that all these guys would just rush in, so I need machine gun shots. But I've bunched up so this 1 surviving gun can still put some nasty shots down the neb, managed to range in it again and do nothing. So there's not much left for the Germans to do. They lost all the momentum, unfortunately, because of getting bogged down in that hedge, which means these guys are all over. So we'll see what happens if the Americans die in a hail of machine gun shots, or if these tanks die in a hail of gamma bombs. So the Americans have done the moving, but it's time out really. There's not much going to happen here. The Germans are not going to take the objective. Because the 3 tanks bogged down would have arrived, if they hadn't done it, would have arrived at that objective the turn before the Americans. And I reckon I could have cleared it. Maybe would have stood a chance. As it was, going to have to call it. So it's going to be a 6-1 to the Yanks. They didn't lose a single platoon. A couple got really badly knocked about, but they all passed their saves. This is always a difficult list to use, this German list, because it's trained. Doesn't have a lot in it. I would say if I had a bit better luck towards the end, I would have stood a chance of taking the objective. If my nebs hadn't have died, I could have put an assault in over here. Without the smoke, it would have been a waste of time. If I'd have put my nebs on at the start of the table, they could have ended up anywhere and would have been smothered by the enemy reserves or stuck behind that wood, for instance, and unable to shoot. So I really had to move them on. Just unlucky they all died in the first turn. Over to the Americans.
So I think there's probably three things I learned from this game. One, I kept moving back with my staff and command team to allow me to get outside that 16-inch friendly fire zone, to keep bringing the plane in for a couple of turns at these tanks. So keep that one in mind. That was a good one to remember. Big one, if you see a line of tanks all building in front of you, just throw something at it, and don't forget that you've got a small platoon here that could have actually done some damage and maybe won the game, so don't be frightened of bailed out tanks. And the third thing I think is maybe should have kept my anti-tank guns in reserve, because they'd probably be more effective coming in at the back of tanks. I think that would have meant that Frank would always been worried about 3 tanks and some bazookas appearing behind these tanks, where his armour's more vulnerable.
Especially bazookas and jeeps.
So maybe, yes, because they were in jeeps as well, they could have rushed forward as well. So maybe put a rifle team in there and kept the anti-tank guns back and bring them in reserve. I just thought immediate ambush, that's where they should really be. But
sometimes an anti-tank platoon isn't the best thing for an ambush. It sounds a bit daft, but best to think what is the best platoon for an ambush, as opposed to anti-tank guns, I've got to put them in ambush.
Yeah, use them more effectively. But it was a good, enjoyable game. I thought, from turn one, I thought you might have been in bigger trouble, but you kept whittling down, and as soon as I seen that my anti-tank guns were this side and all your tanks were at this side, with one platoon on the objective, I really did start to panic. So a good, enjoyable game.
Fortunately, your concrete hedges stopped me.
Yes, my new hedges made of concrete and 6 foot tall, all of them.